All right. Well, good day to you. I am going to talk about a part of a yoga sequence that I was working on in December. Um, First part I want to talk about is pranayama. And I didn't know when I learned the first type of yoga that I learned about specifically something called pranayama. And now that I've studied it a little bit more, um, I really, really think it's wise to incorporate pranayama with the asana in a sequence. And there's different ways of getting there to the breath. But once you find your breath, like personally, I was trained in a six count in, six count out breath, and there's also 60 seconds and 30 seconds and 15 seconds that we trained into our bodies to know. And so it's really two things are happening. Your breath is happening. Like when you walk around throughout the day, you're not really having to think about breathing, but it is good to have awareness about breathing because it can help you navigate through emotions and situations. Like for instance, something that I learned was that resonates with my life is that, and I hope it's helpful for yours, is that, and and I know I'm not the only one to have thought this, but once you like and under, yeah, so your lungs are quite large. You have rather large lungs. They go down. Everybody's lungs go down their back. But the majority of the time, and man, if we're always on our phones, we're barely breathing. We're so heady up here. But anyways, bring it down. Anyways, the tops of the lungs. If you get yourself worked up, you're breathing up here and you're cutting yourself off basically from your heart space. And that's why you can press on places like here, like around this area. Um, there's pressure points that you can help relieve yourself from shallow breathing, which leads to just anxiety and stress, bad stress. And so I am in the pranayama that I've been using to warm my body up. I've been combining the hot yoga breathing practice as well as the Kemetic posturing that is used in the sun salutation. And it seems when with the Kemetic, something that I like about the Kemetic posturing is there's a very receptive there's like a bending in but it's extremely receptive. And the so you'll see me when I do this pranayama, I'll do a combination of these two types of practices, and I'll try to verbalize and articulate it. But first, I actually need to warm up. I haven't practiced in a few days, and I've actually been under the weather, so um I will be good to do. Car alarm is going off. The other thing I want to talk to you about then, oh, two car alarms. The other thing that I want to talk to you about, since the car alarm's going off, is the stance. And this is something that I really can go into depth with, and I hope to be able to share with you more about how important understanding where your feet are and how that connects to the ground is. Because for me, I like to have someone, I like to teach that if you're standing on one leg, if I come up and to push you, you would still be grounded. You would feel fluid in that. And not only would you feel fluid, but you would also be rooted in that. And another philosophy that I pretty much live by when it comes to asana, which asana is the physical postures that you see people doing in all the yoga studios. It's like a very slow dance, but something that I almost live by is do on one side what you do on the other. It's not always gonna feel the same, but if you're practicing, let's say this on one side, you must remember to also do it the same amount of time on the other side. And yes, the conversation will come up of, what if you don't have all four limbs and stuff like that? But that's not an issue. That's not what I'm talking about. And so the pranayama that I'm using is the truth is, or the reality is that I'm actually been asking myself this recently, like, what does reality have to do with truth? And so if you have any ideas on that, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And so the pranayama isn't, it combines, and I think I might have learned this from the hot yoga training. You are using the asana with the pranayama, but you start with the pranayama to set your breathing pace, and that's something that you kind of anchor yourself in and you continue to come back to throughout the practice. No matter how far you are into a stretch or how long you're holding the stretch, you're maintaining the same breathing pace. And I find breathing into the heart is a very lifted breath. It's a very honest breath, and it revitalizes all the limbs, all the parts of the body. It goes throughout it all. So this is an example of breathing. So I have lower back pain, and the most protective movement that I can possibly make is not going from a direct forward bend where I have all of this length with my arms extended. This adds like right here. I can already feel the weight coming into my back. And truly just staying here and working here for a few minutes and just strengthening that space is one way of working on that. But I like doing the inclines because it gets some blood moving to the head. But if I am to, even if my arms are in, I will I mean, right, if I don't move my legs, if I don't let my hips move out with the forward movement, and I just try to stay, like, if I'm like in a chair that doesn't move and then bend forward, that movement creates bad tension. And so with the Kemetic, this was inspired by the Kemetic sun salutation. Like I will continue to kind of like let my thighs come to touch my chest until my hands come to the ground. And I mean, I'm fully bended over, and my head is able to relax. The goal is to be able to let your head hang in that moment, and it stretches out your neck. But you're not trying to like flail yourself into it, and you're not trying to force and flex yourself into it. I could talk about this stuff a lot, but part of it is actually doing the practice. Don't point the finger, blame the other, watch them act again, rediscover communication. So yeah, sometimes I just completely stop doing my yoga practice because I do have so many things that I'm working through, and I'm learning as I'm going. But one of the first inspirations that I had was being able to offer it as something other than prescription. If you don't want to take prescription pills, or if you don't want to get surgeries, that was what was most inspiring to me about it. And these days, I do say I'm okay with certain I'm okay with the Holy Spirit surgeries; those are fine with me. But really the the I don't know. I think that it's a beautiful opportunity to get to know your limitations, and your physical limitations, and how that interacts with what you're thinking about. And what's so funny to me, or what's so amazing to me, is that I think I saw someone joking about living in India, and they were explaining a yoga class in India, and that, like, in the US it's offered as like a stress relief, and in India they're saying, well, stress relief is the byproduct of it, but it's actually it's for your mind. And so I think that at a time where there's like a little bit of a mental thing happening, like people, like a little bit of, like, don't get crazed out, don't believe the hype, it will burn your retinas blind. That is from his song. I don't know the name of them though, but they this practice, what's so beautiful is that it is it proves that people have been dealing with mind issues for a long time. It kind of proves that the term crazy, or like being mentally ill, is not a new concept, and that this type of practice has been available to help people, and it has. And there are studies where it truly does help people who in some cultures are deemed uncurable and mental. You just throw them in a cage and give them a pill, numb it out, and then in other places it's something that you work with and you work through, like you would a rainstorm. Oh, it's rainy out, you put on a jacket. Oh, you're having that thought, you do this posture. It's not very it's not it's a very, like, I don't know. So I'm just grateful that the practice exists, and I do think it has its, like, political connections, and there's shortcomings in the politics of it all, and I don't and I love to get to learn the history of the practice, and who practices it, and who's been allowed to, and who hasn't, and mostly it's not even most of this is just a matter of rich and poor. It all comes down to who has money, and some of these practices are developed for rich people who just hang out all day and they have nothing. They have to create exercises because they otherwise wouldn't move their bodies. And then that's where you kind of get a little bit of a gap, because some people work hard all day and they don't feel the need to exercise. But the practice of yoga isn't for your body as much as it's for your mind. The byproduct of being able to have a stronger, healthy body is the byproduct of it. So, and like, and yeah, and if you're like lifting and like in heavy lifting and have like back issues and stuff, yoga practice is good for that. It does help you like stretch, and it's strengthening and stretches. I'm saying this to also inspire myself. I have been studying this for 20 years and I'm trying to start uh, um, my own thing with it, and it's very intimidating process. But for those of you who have been staying tuned and encouraging, and I hope that any of these lessons have been helpful, and that all glory be to God. Have a wonderful day.